press to continue thing. Okay. All right. So again, welcome everybody to the second in a series that the Ministerial Association is presenting. I'm Rosemary Caldarello, the president of the Ministerial Association. And when we got together as a board of that association, one of the service clubs for NSAC, we just shared what we'd all been hearing as various questions coming from churches and auxiliaries in general. And so we came up with this idea for a three session series, starting with the first one, which was in May, on growing your church. And we had a great discussion with Siobhan Carlson, the Reverend Pam Bollinger, and the Reverend Joanne Santanacido. Tonight, it's going to be on what's behind the protocols. And then September 15th, Richard Scholler will be doing a session also. So watch for that. First, I just want to share that the Reverend Joanne Santanacido did have something come up last minute. She sends her regrets, but we're very happy that the Reverend Sharon Watson will be joining the Reverend Cosie Allen in leading this discussion this evening. Just a little Zoom etiquette. I know we've been all on it a lot, but maybe some more than others. So if you wouldn't mind, when we do get to, if we have time for questions, and hopefully we will get to have time, if you could use the reactions button to raise hands, and that will put you to the beginning of the queue so we don't miss that you have a question. Or you can send it to me in the chat also. So we're very delighted that both Sharon and Cosie could be with us tonight. They both have incredible backgrounds in teaching, in serving churches, and in the history behind the history of spiritualism and the history and the rationale behind a lot of the protocols that guide how we all do our work today. So I'm going to spotlight them, and then I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started with the discussion. So there goes Sharon, and now there we go. Okay, so welcome Sharon and Cosie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Sharon, would you like to go first?
Sure. My name obviously is the Reverend Sharon Watson. I have been a member of the NSAC since, well, about 2001. I was ordained in 2003, and I do hold all the credentials: certified medium, commissioned healer, national spiritualist teacher, and ordained minister. I have served many churches and camps throughout the country, and I currently belong to the Spiritualist Church of Awareness in Orlando, Florida, which is where I was ordained through. And I just love that church, and it is so very important to me, as I know your churches are important to you. I do serve on the club boards for all of the boards: the NST Club, the Ministerial Association, and the Healers League, and I'm the Licentiate Ministers and Certified Medium Society. I am a member of the Morris Pratt Institute and serve on the Education Committee as their chair, and I'm currently the Department of Education Director for the NSAC. So that's it. Cosie, take it away. It's your turn.
I'm hold all credentials with I'm never any good at this, but thank you for this opportunity to be here with all of you. And I've been a member of NSAC since I turned 18 and could be. And I think that's almost just under 50 years ago. So I'm not good at math in my head. So anyway, and I've been going to a spiritualist church since, well, over 50 years, because the first time I went, I was 9 or 10 years old. I'm a member of the Golden Rule Spiritualist Church and Northern Lake, Michigan Spiritualist Camp in Bayshore, Michigan, which is up by Petoskey, where I am now. And I'm the pastor of both the church and camp. What else? I hold all credentials. I used to be on the ministerial board as secretary treasurer for years. And I wish I could say that I haven't the last year or two gotten paid for my membership for the clubs, and that's going to change. And because the importance of these clubs are just phenomenal, and the ability to have as much information as we're getting through these clubs for spiritualism everywhere is phenomenal. So thank you all very much. Is that all?
That's great. I would just add that if you've ever heard Cosie speak, you know she has a knowledge of spiritualist history that is really incomparable. So we're happy that you made time for this. I also just want to take a quick moment to acknowledge the other members of the Ministerial Association Board that helped organize this series. Of course, the Reverend Sharon Watson, but also the Reverend Patricia Horn, who I know is also here tonight, the Reverend Haviva Richards, and the Reverend Joanne Santanacito. So thank you, ladies, for helping put this all together. So let's get started with some questions and see where we go, right? First, I know some of us have wondered about the history of the protocols, and I think it's important to acknowledge that NSAC has had a number of substantial leadership changes in the last 10 years or so, which may have impacted on the transfer of knowledge that normally would have happened within organizations. You know, with church leadership turning over, losing our very long time National Secretary, the Reverend Sharon Snowman, and then a number of years where pastoral skills, now ministerial skills, was canceled or didn't happen because of COVID. So there seems to be a lot of questions that those of us in teaching get about the protocols. So, and many NSAC members, including those certified, may not be aware today that there are established protocols for services, and there's a really rich history and written guidance. So can you help us fill in the background on this history for those of us here today?
When you say protocols, do you mean about
church services and things like that?
I wish I had it in hand. I was the NSAC board in the early 1990s, asked me to research the Mediums Relief Fund and how it was brought into Spiritualist Benevolent Society. And in going through old TNSs and other wealth of information at the national office, years ago, the TNS used to put after conventions any resolutions that had been passed at convention and bylaws that had been passed at convention. And I ran across I apologize, it would have had to have been a resolution. Around the same time the resolution was voted by the delegates for our spiritualist flag, there was also a resolution on an order of service for our spiritualist churches. And I've yet been able to find that again. So there was a typical order of service, the way a service should be in a spiritualist church. And through time and changes, it's been adjusted somewhat. Is that the kind of history you wanted, Rosemary?
No, and then where might the adjustments have happened, and where can people go for resources?
there's two wonderful resources, one specifically, and the other one I've not seen in years, but there's a Platform Decorum book that was written and accepted by the National Board by the Reverend E.N. Otzelberger. And that, I believe, is still, you can get a copy of that in the national office. And the Reverend Sharon Snowman had written up a document about Platform Decorum, and she also taught it in class in pastoral skills. And it continues on to this day where we talk about, in now it's called ministerial skills, Platform Decorum and do's and don'ts. And we all have the do's and don'ts of healing mediumship and mediumship. I would guess that we all do. And that's included in that. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah. And Sharon, do you have any thoughts to add on that?
You know, it's tradition, and there's a lot of discussion on should things be changed and brought up to more current, the current year. And I will tell you that I was a couple different religions before I was a spiritualist. And the one before, I was a Baptist. I was brought up a Baptist. And I could go anywhere in the country to a Baptist church, and I knew what to expect. Baptist was one of the mainstream religions, as I know that for us, especially those of us attending here, is our main religion. But there are people out there who don't know about spiritualism. So I think it's important, if they go into a church, for them to be able to have some understanding of what's going to occur, what's going to happen, because we don't want people to come into a service nervous about what's going to go on in a service. We want to make sure that people feel comfortable and that they're able to be relaxed and share in the energy. And I think it's important that we try to stay along the same protocols that has been set up, in the same order of service, to assure that at least people have an idea. There's been, as Cosie said, there's been some changing. Some people do the healing at the beginning, and some people do it in a little bit after they've opened the service. And I think those are all good, but there is a building of energy. There is a progression, and there is a reason why we follow the order of service that we do follow. And it is to help those people become more comfortable, to attune to our spirit loved ones and to our spirit workers, and help them come into our vibration to help reach those in the congregation. And I know those of us who have served the platform can definitely feel the shift as the energy of spirit moves in. It's phenomenal. I know the very first time I ever stepped on a platform, I thought I was literally floating. I really felt like I was floating. And it's important, because it lets, just like meditation and anything that we prepare for, whether it's meditation, mediumship, healing, when we go into that, we have to raise our vibration, and spirit lowers there so that we can meet in the middle. And this is what is important in our spiritualist service. And that's why we open with the invocation, and we do sing the hymns that are in the hymn book, because we know that singing those hymns raises the vibration. We know that the healing meditation draws those in spirit closer to us. And it is something that most church services can be held the exact same way. Can there be a little deviation? Yes, but we try to stay with the way it is, because it does help build the energy. And you can definitely feel that energetic shift in a church.
Okay, so Cosie, Sharon started going into this next area we had thought we should focus on. So I wonder if you could go a little more deeply into about what the goals are of a service. Because I know we have quite a mix on tonight from people who are just starting out in their journey, as well as people who are experienced. So for those who are newer to their journey, can you talk about the goals of a service and in terms of how a service is set up?
Well, anybody that's going to be working on a platform of a church, you're going to know before you go into that church on that Sunday. And it is to be of the highest, and thank you, Sharon, for reminding us of the vibration and how it builds. I liken it to being a painter or a conductor of an orchestra. And with every stroke on the canvas, there's meaning behind it. There's beauty. You're beginning to build your portrait with every tap of that an orchestra conductor does. They're taking control and they're starting to build that vibration of music. And you start from the moment people walk in the door, and the ultimate thing that should be done for religious service is to spiritually, people are coming to church to be spiritually uplifted, to know that you don't know what their walk of life was. If they're new, they're coming with many questions in their head of what happens in a spiritualist church. And we're no different than any other denomination, because we expect dignity and decorum from our service. We expect to spiritually uplift everyone that comes to our service. I look at the sermon being the most important message that anyone will ever receive. And the spirit greetings are just the icing on the cake. And that's just an old adage and I'm talking with my hands, so I probably shouldn't be. But we teach and we bring comfort to those that have lost someone, whether it was yesterday or the day before, or a year or 5 years or 10 years ago. We're bringing them comfort in knowing that there is no death. There are no dead. And with everything that's done in the church, it's with dignity, not only to those in the physical attendance, but also those in spirit.
Thank you. So I know that from the way I was taught, and then now being a teacher myself, that one of the goals of a service is also that to demonstrate that spiritualism is a natural and normal condition, right? That we want people to understand that, as you said, that they could know what to expect or to feel comfortable when they come in. Can you each together, or whoever wants to lead off, talk about the different elements in the service and how it does all build? Just go a little more deeply into that.
Sharon?
Okay, sure. I mean, it really truly does start when you walk in the door and greeting people and with open arms and having people seat them, making them feel comfortable, inviting them to take part in the service, assisting them to a seat. If you have any handouts for the church, perhaps you'd want to give them that so that they can read further, because people, if it's their first time there, will have questions. They will definitely have questions, and that's a good thing. And that's where we come in to help educate them. The platform chairperson is the one who basically leads the service. And this is going to sound funny, but they should actually be the least heard. They are just the directors, just the guiders of what goes on in a service. It is the platform chairperson's job to tell people whether to sit or whether to stand, how many verses of the hymn will be sung, how many stanzas are going to be sung. It's helpful when you hear that from the person on the platform, because you don't have to guess and wait for everybody to stand up or try to figure out when to sit down. So the chairperson is the one who directs the service, and they are important because they are the glue. They are in service to those in the.
Okay, so Sharon looks frozen to me. So Cosie, do you want to?
They are the ones who have started to build that vibration that everyone is coming
Congregation.
in contact
They are the ones
with.
who are going to help the congregation feel comfortable in the service.
Okay, so Sharon, you had just frozen. So if that's why you heard Cosie talking when you all of a
And
sudden.
I just took off where you ended, so you can go after that. Building the vibration the chairperson does.
Okay. Yes, so that chairperson builds the vibration and helps direct everybody. And it's almost like spirit is like waiting for that to occur, for each step to occur, so they can build their vibration. As I spoke about before, we have to raise our vibration and spirit has to lower their vibration. The healing portion of the service, I know in our church service, we do that first before we actually do the regular service, but I have been in churches where they've done it after they've opened and said the Declaration of Principles. Now we know that we don't have any dogma or creed, but the Declaration of Principles is our belief and ideas that we have studied and come to found to be true. It's a way of life. It helps us live our life here on earth. So if you've ever wondered where your book of instructions are for life, that's part of them, and natural law is the other part. So those are ways to live your life by, and they are of the highest and the best. So when we recite these, we are reciting and affirming our beliefs in this knowledge that has been brought forward. And those have been subject to change. And there has been discussions at convention by the delegates, and the delegates have occasionally changed some of the words. As our knowledge grows, then sometimes we need to adapt the wording from that. The healing portion of our service is one where we obviously attune for healing. It is the vibrational shift that is felt and the calmness that is felt when we are doing a healing meditation. The healing meditation should always be one that is not going to make people afraid. The healing chair should try to pick generic places and not put people on a mountaintop or on a sea, because people may be afraid of heights or they may be afraid of the ocean. So you want to pick a nice place that is comfortable for them. When we do that and we close our eyes and we relax, it helps draw spirit energy in and gets everybody ready for healing. And even if people don't come up to the healing chair, they still receive that healing, because the energy and the vibration is in that sanctuary, in that room at that time. Spirit comes because they are called, and they come and they deliver healing to those who are present and those who we send healing to. Because we have to remember our world needs healing. And when we send that healing out, it does go where it is received. And it is received by those people who need that. Whether they have asked for that healing or not, they can still feel better. We can always send that love to everybody. And that healing raises the vibration, raises the energy of the service. And when it's done in the sanctuary, it just fills the whole room with spirit and that energy of love and healing. And then as you move from there and you sing the hymns, we know that the raising of vibration, one of the ways that you do that is by singing hymns and getting everybody into one accord and singing with yourself and with your soul. And it's wonderful if you have people who are able to share in that portion of the service with either singing. I know we've had several people who've sung in our church, and it's incredible how the energy shifts when you sing a hymn. Everybody can feel the energy building. And
So Sharon,
once that,
can I just interject here? 'Cause
sure,
we still have,
absolutely.
after all this time for many churches on Zoom, and still now churches are doing hybrid, some are still only on Zoom. Can you just give us your perspective on how the protocols have been adapted for the Zoom environment?
Yeah, sometimes it's when you are on a Zoom platform and you are doing a healing portion, it is a little bit different because the healing tends not to be quite so long. If you leave people sitting in their chairs at home, the potential for them to doze off or their brains to go off in a different direction is very high. So, but there usually is music played, and you can still feel a difference in vibration. I know I can still feel it, even though it's on Zoom. I can still feel the vibrational switch and the vibrational change. And yes, it is a little bit different. We're not there in person. We don't feel that physicality of people in the room with us, but we can still feel that energy shift. So yes, there's a little difference in the Zoom platform, especially for healing and mediumship.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. So just then continuing to go through the elements of a service more methodically. I don't know if Sharon, if you want to continue, or Cosie, do you want to pick up after the healing?
You're through the healing. I think you're doing great, Sharon.
Okay, just checking in.
Okay. Yes, and then after the healing, then is what usually comes next is a sermon. And as Cosie said, the sermon really is the most important, because that is the place where we can teach. We can teach about spiritualism. We can teach about the science, the philosophy, and the religion. Even people who've been there before, I know in my church, there are people who come at different times. There are new people, and there are people who haven't been in a while. And I can tell the Fox story, and people are still amazed at that. People are like, wow, I never realized that, or I never knew about that. Where can I get more information on that? So that's our time to teach and uplift people. It is our time to teach how things happen in the spirit world and how we interact with them, and our reverence and sacredness for the position that we hold to be able to touch in with them. A lot of people speak inspirational, and that you can definitely tell in the shift and the energy in the room. And it's the ability for spirit to speak through people and bring that information is just absolutely priceless. It is uplifting. It gives guidance according to what we know and we understand as far as the science, philosophy, and religion of spiritualism. And we should always be teaching on those aspects and not getting off into other venues, because people can become confused. When there are so many different venues and so many different avenues that are present, we need to make sure that we are standing firm on our foundation in the teachings of those who have gone before us and have worked so hard to bring about. Then once the sermon is complete, usually there's a hymn sung, and then it becomes the message portion of the service. And that is where the medium tunes into the vibration of spirit to bring proof of the continuity of life and help comfort the bereaved. Many people have lost people, and it is so it's such a sacred place to be able to bring that energy and that vibration of their loved ones to them and let them know that they're not alone and that you still do go on after the change called death. And yes, there is a place called the spirit world. And yes, we can learn to communicate with that. Everybody is a medium. Everybody can communicate with spirit. You just have to have the training and the knowledge and the understanding of how those laws work so that you can connect with them. And as Cosie said, that's just the icing on the cake. First, you give them the foundation and you give them the science, philosophy, and religion. And then you show by the demonstration of mediumship in our services that spirit does continue on and that we do move on after the change called death and that we can still feel our loved ones around us.
Add a couple things.
Absolutely, please.
I'm glad I haven't seen this much anymore, but there was a time when we could work with laying out of hands healing, and people would make all these gyrations with the healing mediums and go like this, and it's not a stage where you perform. You're there as an instrument for spirit to utilize your physical body to bring forth the healing for others. And when you're working with spirit greetings, you're working on the platform, because that's where the vibration has built throughout the whole church. But you're on the platform demonstrating to everyone. Now, years ago, everyone in the congregation, and there's a couple that are here tonight that were taught to do it this way, but everyone in the church service got a spirit greeting. Everyone. Not everyone is there. You don't need to do that. And when it had become it had gotten to a point where you weren't hearing so much from spirit, but you might be getting something psychically. And so that would be given. You know what I mean? I think you all do. So I'm just going to leave it there. Not everyone gets a personal greeting. Now, that's not saying that what a greeting someone else got or received, excuse me. You see, and there's got to be English teachers on this Zoom, isn't there? I'm sure there is, because you're lucky you don't have me as your student, I got to say, because I don't, anyway, I digress. There might be people in that church service that in hearing what someone else received from spirit is helping them have a greater understanding of spirit communication. I hope that makes sense to you guys. And to each of you, I shouldn't have said guys, should I? You see, that's another problem I'm having. It's just my talk. I told you, Rosemary, I couldn't be trusted. And so again, I'm hoping you, and everything is done from the platform. You're there as a medium to prove the continuity of life. You're there not to pace back and forth on the platform. I've seen televangelists do that, and maybe if we were televangelists, anyway. But please, I'm not saying do it, because I'm losing my words here. We're not show people. We have a denomination with a beautiful religion. And as Sharon has said, it's a way of life. There's more people searching for the truth about spirit communication, because the interest continues to grow in the universe about spirit communication, about life after death. And who better to teach that than us, who truly do have an understanding of that. And I know we're not at this point, but because it's in my head, I'm going to say it. There's very few reasons why anyone would ever leave the platform of a church during a service. Very few reasons. If you're doing spirit greetings and you leave that platform and you go over by a person that you want to bring a spirit greeting to, one, they may not want you to. Two, they may have a problem with a stranger coming that close to them. And three, it's very disrespectful to the whole church environment. And Sharon, you're going to need to clean up my words from how I'm going with this. You don't know what if you leave the church to do spirit greetings and you're going somewhere real close to someone, it's being heard by others as a whisper. You don't know how they're taking that. You don't know. I'm losing my words, Sharon, so I'm going to turn this over to you.
You know, some people have, I know everybody here has heard of what's called a personal space. And it's actually a space around you. And I'm trying to remember the actual distance. And I want to say it's like 3 to 5 feet around you, that you have a personal space, that if people step into that, it almost makes you become defensive and you want to back up. It's because it's like they're invading. Haven't you ever had anybody who gets so close to you, they're like almost right in your face talking to you, and you're like wanting to go, okay, back up. And I think when we do that, that can make some people uncomfortable. And a lot of the times the messages, as Cosie said, when we give messages to people, you know, it may help somebody else in a way that you have no idea. You have no idea how that message for the person sitting next to you will touch and reach you. You may even just feel that spirit and that vibration of love that person next to you that's receiving the message is feeling. And that in itself is a true blessing. And it is a true, it's a very sacred place. And I believe we should never, ever lose that sacredness and never, ever take for granted and downplay the ability to stand between this and the spirit world and give those greetings. I think that should be very respected.
Yeah. So I'd just like to add what I feel like I'm hearing is also that a church service is about public demonstration. And so when we change the process, it becomes more of a personal interaction. And it is hard to hear unless you're carrying a microphone around, but it does take that public demonstration and the information for all a little bit out of it. And that that can change the energy and the expectation also. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Also, just, thinking about being in an actual physical church, again, many services are still on Zoom or hybrid. And I think it's important for people to remember that even on Zoom, like we came to one room, we have one room of intention, and we build the energy within the energetic space as well. So it may be where the chair might identify those who are serving in a who would be share the platform in a physical church. Still on Zoom, the chair would identify who's on the virtual platform. Do you agree with that? I just want to make sure I'm hearing that correctly also, that it's still the same process essentially in that.
Yes.
So when you demonstrate mediumship on Zoom, you're being public to everyone in much the same way it would be in a physical church. Are there any other differences you might want to highlight for Zoom protocols versus in-person services?
I can address just one I want to address, and then Cosie, I see that you'd like to say something too. When we first came out with Zoom, and you thought, well, I can't give a message on a Zoom platform. It's going to be so different. How can I do that? But it truly is this. It truly is the same. You're touching in with your spirit people, and your spirit people are with you, and you are giving that information. You don't have to be in the same room with people. There are many mediums. See, now I'm getting a language thing, Cosie. It's your fault. It's contagious. There are many mediums who do phone readings, and they may not even be in the same state or in the same country. So I think the scariness of giving messages on Zoom has decreased now, but the energy is the same, and your spirit people are going to work with you, whether you are in the room with somebody, whether you're on Zoom, whether you're on the phone with them. That is the relationship that you have with your people in spirit who work with you.
I agree with you, Sharon, except I'm going to say I feel the difference. I would rather be, for me, I agree with you. Those from spirit are there, and they're going to work with you. And but when I'm in person in a church, as strange as it sounds, it's easier for me because you've got not just the love that you're getting from those on Zoom, but they're there in person. And you can call me old-fashioned or older than dirt, as my girlfriend often does. And I can say that because she's not here. I don't think she ain't, right, Rosemary? I don't think she is. Anyway, I for one love the added vibration that I get from being in person. But the bottom line is you're still working with a wonderful vibration, with the same dignity and decorum. I mean, when I serve a church like tonight, I would love to be here in my nighttime clothes, but I'm not. Do you like my shirt, you guys? Anyway, Pam, I see you. I love you. I can see you nod your head. And Lorraine, I think I saw you nodding your head too. But and when I get to this point, you never know what's going to come out of me. Just the bottom line, and call it protocol, call it whatever term you want to use. A church service is for everyone. all aspects of the church service is for everyone that has come there to be in attendance. And they are in attendance because one, they've never been to a spiritualist church and they want to come and give people a hard time or tell you that it's just all hooey or whatever. They're coming to check you out because they saw the wonderful program on CBS called Ghosts and all the other movies that they're seeing where there's seances and mediums and everything. The bottom line is we're no different. The spiritualist church is no different than any other one. When you walk into a church, you're coming to that church because it's a sacred place. You know that you're there because that's your connection to infinite intelligence. That's where you're loved. That's where you are unconditionally loved. You can go to a spiritualist church and wear whatever you want. You can be and who you truly are and accepted. And how much greater could it be? And that's a gift that every time somebody walks into a church, when I'm there, I feel that gift. And selfishly, I feel it. I just take that on, and it's just something that everyone gives to me. And so when I reach out to say hi, thank you for being here, they better know that it's more than words. And they better know that from you, that it's more than words. You know, we don't just recite the Declaration of Principles. And if you're to that point, you better reevaluate what your purpose to be a part of spiritualism is. Because if you're just reciting words and you have not taken those words off that paper and incorporated them into your life, every aspect of your life, then please look at what they mean to you again. Every time somebody walks in that church, how many of you, the first time you were ever in a spiritualist church, you felt like you were home? Have you all felt that way? When you are sitting in front of your laptop and people are seeing you or not seeing you, it depends on your comfort feeling. How many of you feel you've come home? You have come home because there are people of like minds. There are people that for whatever reason they've come to your spiritualist church, they didn't come to hear about the politics that are going on in your little church. They didn't come to pick up any negativity. They've got a whole lot themselves that they want to get rid of, and they come because they know that you're going to help them on that journey to rid themselves, break those chains. People are coming to your church for the first time that have grown up in a Christian church, and they were told that if they weren't good, if they weren't top notch, they were going to hell. There's no way you guys can tell me any of you haven't experienced that. And once they've come to a spiritualist church and they feel that unconditional love, they feel those words being taken off that page, and they know they're accepted, not for what they are, what they have, what they don't have, but for who they are. And they are your next best friend. Every person that walks through that door, because you never meet a stranger. Protocols, we're not actors, we're not actresses. Of course, I was told I should look into it because I might be pretty good, but not in a spiritualist church. I added that, not them. When you do the work, from the moment you open your eyes and you know you're going to church to serve, you're going to be on that platform. Who do you want them to see? Who do you want them to see? What do you want them to get out of your church service? One of the best things I've ever seen is something that I always felt needed to be is the love offering doesn't go through the congregation since COVID. Have you guys noticed that? I always thought the best place for a love offering was a box at the door, and they could either put it in on their way in or on their way out. And when it comes to the, what do you call it, announcements? Please don't make the announcements be longer than the sermon. Because one, your announcement should be posted somewhere, if not on a thing in the back of your church, then on a slide. What do you call those things on Zoom?
The PowerPoint slide.
Yeah, PowerPoint thing. Is that what you said, Rosemary?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Have that on your screen. You don't need to take up that time because you're losing your vibration then.
Mm-hmm.
So don't make your announcements so long, and please don't ask anybody in the congregation if there's anything you haven't mentioned, or on Zoom if anyone can think of anything that I've forgotten. Please don't do that. That's disrespectful to the people that have come to your church service. You're the chairperson. You're supposed to have all that information written down. So those are just little tidbits that came in my head when I was talking, and I wanted to get them out. So I'll stop now.
So Cosie and Sharon, while you were both talking about different aspects, I was reminded that, and I know, Cosie, this has come up when you and I have taught together, that people may feel they don't have to explain things because, after all, perhaps it's a small church and the same people come, but really we should always prepare and have our services as though there will be new people, because we never know if it's every week or, so that, or 1 week that, new people don't announce themselves, they're just there. And so that's part of the education, is to be demonstrating spiritualism for people who would not otherwise know it. So I want to come back to mediumship in a service, and I wonder if you could explain the policy around going direct in mediumship and where that came from.
Sharon, do you want to, or do you want?
Oh, you're doing so well, Cosie.
Indirect is, if my understanding is correct, I'll go with direct. direct is when there's someone in your church service, whether it's on Zoom or at in-person church. And you know their name or you don't know their name, but you describe who you're going to go to. Now they say not the point because that's rude. And if any of you have seen me work and I've been in your church, I know you've invited me so I can teach your students what not to do because I like to point. But don't point because you'll get in trouble. I get in trouble afterwards all the time. But you describe and then you bring them a spirit greeting and you prove the continuity of life. Indirect is when you're, in my understanding of indirect, is when you go to it, when you're looking at the congregation, whether on Zoom or in a church, and you say, I'm getting just a letter J from Spirit. Is there someone here that can take that as a last name or a first name or and then a bunch of questions start going. Is that what you're looking for, Rosemary?
Yeah, but also that there's actually a policy, correct?
Yes, there was a policy. Yes, there was a policy written, and I can see the paper with the Reverend Sharon Snowman's. It's around 2011, 2013, somewhere in there, 2012, I don't know. And then it was resent out with the Reverend Christine Kratadis's name on. I can see that. And it's that in students and certified workers in a spiritualist church, NSAC has a policy that you go direct and not indirect.
Thank you. And I'm not sure how many people knew that, so I just wanted to highlight that because it is an actual policy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, there's a policy. It was a suggestion by the NSAC board, and then it the Healers League, I believe in 2018 or 2019, had a resolution or something about, and you're nodding your head. Am I going the right way? They made it a policy for healing mediums. If you want to share that, Sharon, because you're nodding, and I can remember and see where we are and that it was a vote from the delegates, but if you would like to take that one on.
Okay. Yes, the healers, the healing portions of the service, when you go up to people, the HIPAA laws and actually regular laws prevent from touching except for the shoulders and above. So shoulders and head. And that is because, you know, people had complained about people patting their shoulders or rubbing their shoulders. And we want to make sure that we're not touching people inappropriately because that can actually be considered battery. So we want to make sure that we're following the guidelines. And it was just easier because different states have different requirements for touching. So it was just easier to make a statement of shoulder and above, shoulder and head and above for touching. And no, you don't need to have a bowl of water to wash your hands.
Unless you're in Michigan.
Unless you're in Michigan.
So make sure you check your state laws. In Connecticut, you can, I believe it's Connecticut or Massachusetts, you cannot do auric healing. That's not legal. And thank you for that. And there's another thing, if you're healing, and the healing medium should be in front, and if they are someplace else, that there be someone there to monitor what's going on. And if you just remember that you, as a healing medium, you're giving healings, not feelings. And so, and I can tell you the history of why that was started and where it was started at, but I'm not going to take up the time.
Thank you. That's very helpful, I'm sure, to people. Can you each give us your opinion on why should mediums give or not give messages to the others serving on the platform? Because I know that some people feel very strongly if you're serving, you should not give messages to other people serving, and in other churches it does happen. So can you share your thoughts on that? Or if there is anything in the preferred protocols about that?
Well, if you read Anna's, and I suggest anyone to get Ann Otzelberger's Platform Decorum book, and that's at the NSAC office. And somebody's going to have to, I don't have Sharon Snowman or the Reverend Sharon Snowman's, although she was my instructor in pastoral skills, and I know how strict she was. People on the platform during any portion of the service are up there to serve the congregation. And you, when I say you, I'm not saying individually you, it's collectively you. If you're serving as a healing medium, if you're given that opportunity to serve as a healing medium, you're serving the congregation, not the platform. And those from Spirit that work with you know that. And you're just not giving platform Spirit greetings. And it's in the Platform Decorum book, I believe. And it's an accepted teaching from this organization.
Thank you. Thanks. I did want to jump back to healing just for half a minute. Just you had mentioned auric healing being illegal in a state. And in general, I've just noticed in my own teaching that there's often a misunderstanding of what spiritual healing is in a spiritualist church. And so, Sharon, would you just clarify that, what that is, to make sure everybody's on the same page?
Okay, yes, we when we practice spiritualist healing, it's not Reiki, it's not any of those type of things. It is actually spiritual healing. And many times back in the day, they used to think that it was said that you would absorb that whatever the person was sitting in your chair, that you would pick up that energy and you would have that psychic contamination. But that's not the way healing works. Healing comes from Spirit through you to the person. You don't have to be in the same room. You don't have to be touching. We can no more clear the aura than we can clear a shadow. The healing comes from within the person. It's not the energy around them, because our thoughts and vibration are what form the aura around us. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, thank you. Just to clarify it. And then I'm just closing us out on this piece, and then we just have a couple other questions before we open it up. If you could just wrap up with the purpose of a benediction, as we talked about mediumship, and then the rest of the service. After mediumship, I think, did Sharon freeze again?
Sharon, are you froze? No, I saw your eyes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So yeah, because we had gone through.
I'm having some connection issues.
Okay. No worries, right? This is going into year 3 of Zoom. We all get the ebb and flow here, right?
Okay.
So the question is, we're doing a slow walk through the guidance for the service. So after mediumship then is usually the concluding song and the benediction. Can you just speak to the purpose of the benediction?
I can't speak to the purpose of the benediction. The benediction is actually a blessing on the congregation as they go forth, enter their day. It should be so short. And I guess, I don't know if we talked about the invocation, but the invocation is to draw everybody into one accord, so we can all be on the same vibration and join hearts and hands and love and energy. So the benediction would be a blessing on people as they go forth throughout their weeks and their days to remain in spirits, thoughts, and healing energy.
Okay,
And can I ask Sharon a question?
sure.
And Sharon, who would be the one to give the invocation, and who might be the one to do the benediction?
Well,
Oh, and also, should there be blessings on the offering?
okay. Yes, I can address those. The invocation should always be done by the chairperson. It should never be done by the speaker, because the speaker has not been introduced or presented to the congregation yet, and there may be people who do not know them. So the invocation is always done by the chairperson. The chairperson can ask the speaker or message minister even to give the benediction. That is appropriate. And yes, there should be a blessing on the donations. Always.
Thank you. So, I know MPI lessons discuss elements of a service, and in other documents, there's a suggested order of service. There's some elements in the bylaws, but the word, I think, suggested or recommended trips people up sometimes. And what's your opinion on whether or not, I guess, churches have new people come in or other perspectives? And I've had this question, can't they do whatever they want if all of these protocols are just recommended? What's flexible and what's necessary and required?
Cosie, that sounds like a you question.
No, I was waiting to hear from you, Sharon.
Well, as we talked about, we're building the energy, we're building the vibration. That is the whole purpose, as we talked about going through the order of service and why the order of service is the way it is. As I said before, sometimes people, like I know in our church, we do the healing service before we begin the regular service. So our healing service is for a half an hour before the service starts. And then there's usually a little bit of time in case people have to go out and use the restroom, and then they come back in for the regular service. I've also been on Zoom meetings where the service is started and then the healing is done before the sermon, or I've even been on Zoom services where it's done before messages. So I think it's helpful for people to have a similar service, as I said before, because I think people need to be comfortable when they come someplace into a new building, and just have an idea of what's going to go on. And the energy shifts and changes from spirit are definitely felt when you do the healing and those type of things. So, Cosie, please add.
Well, I want to again, if you're in person, your healing mediumship should typically be in the front, if you have space in the front part of your church, because when it's there. Even during COVID, I think there's only one or two churches that I know of that are in person that are allowing, that are doing laying out of hands healing. But it should be where you want to You want to involve everyone in your church. And when it's done in front, if everyone's seeing that there's healings going on, not feelings, but also the congregation is sending their healing and assisting you as an instrument with the vibration that you're receiving, not only from spirit, but also from those in the congregation. And that's something that has that is very important. And you're allowing your congregation to partake in that healing as well. I was going to say something else, but it's not important because I can't remember it. So I'll stop.
So just to restate the question and just ask for a little more input on it. So if a church says, I don't like this order of service, or I don't think all of these elements should happen, what would you say to them?
I would ask why. I personally would ask why they weren't feeling comfortable with it. I would want to know what they would like to do. And can you change your service? Absolutely. But there are still elements of how it should be done. And the deviation is in a service is more the order of service. More and more churches are incorporating other pieces of music that they're getting from other areas. That's perfectly all right. If the song that's being chosen is one that is going to uplift someone, you wouldn't want some heavy metal music or heavy rock music type of thing. The basic protocol is to stay on the platform. You're serving your congregation. If the chairperson is not only chairing the service, but they're doing the sermon and mediumship, I'm sorry for that because it's a very difficult position to be in. I was in it for years. But at least when you're announcing your workers, you're letting them know, and there's a separation between the beginning and opening of service into the sermon and then into the spirit greetings. You don't want to just put all that together. Is that the type of thing you're looking at, Rosemary?
Yeah, and what I feel that I'm hearing tonight is really the reinforcement of understanding spiritualism. If you have a role in running your church or serving the platform, to understand spiritualism, because that will help you understand why there are certain elements to a service, or why things are done the way they have been. So I just ask you, before we open it up to other questions in the time remaining, I'd ask you both.
Sharon had
sorry. Yeah.
I also just had a thought, because in your bylaws, you may have an order of service that is placed in your bylaws. So if you are going to change your order of service, you may have to make a bylaw change. Just sorry.
That's a good point. Yeah, thank you for raising that. So I was just going to ask both of you, just in thinking about this topic, what do you want students starting out or new members of an auxiliary to understand about spiritualist services? The vision. All right, Cosie, go for it.
Remember where you are. and who you are and why you're there and why you choose to be there and why you choose to be a part of. Remember that if you're part of a church, if you're a part of being on the platform, whatever part you're taking, you're a part of that orchestra. So be the best instrument you can be and you know to be. And if you have questions of why, ask. And don't just take one person's reasoning, but also remember spiritualism is a denomination with a beautiful religion of spiritualists, of being a spiritualist. We are not a self-help group. And I hope you hear me when I say that. Spiritualism and the teachings of spiritualism do help and assist people on their journey through this expression of life. But we're not a self-help group. Do you know what I mean by that?
That you had said, we're here to serve. It's not for, we're not to be a closed club and not a self-help group, but about spiritualism.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay. Any thoughts, Sharon, on what you would say to students to add to what Cosie said?
I think that as long as we keep the highest and the best in our mind, as long as we strive to understand natural law and who we are and what we're representing in the most professional manner that we can, there are so many avenues of help. If you have any questions on anything regarding your auxiliary, there are many different places you can go to find information. And as Cosie said, don't just take one person. Most of your directives are going to be in your bylaws. And yes, I'm hoping to see all of you at convention because we'll have some changes coming up, maybe or maybe not, but that is up to the delegates. But you make the decisions for this organization. You are the people who decide. There is voting. There is a time for you to connect with people in your community, to help and to understand, and just give that love and let them know that people do continue on. You are representing spiritualism in your community and touching each and every person, because we are all one. We're all here to help each other. We're all here to help each other grow and to learn. And if you remember the foundation of spiritualism, the science, philosophy, and religion, and continue to teach that and share that with your congregation, there are many different classes and that you can avail yourself and your congregation of to help them grow and help them in understanding. But always know that there is a lot of support for you out there.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. I just want to add to that some specifics, just reminding people about the book by Ann Otzelberger that was mentioned, but also we have tonight the Reverend Pamela Bollinger on, and she's the director of missionaries, and the missionaries are there to give hands-on support and answer questions. So please reach out to her if you feel like you or your church could use some support. The MPI graders are often a good first resource, and then the clubs can sometimes provide some help as well. So all good things to think about. So now I'd like to open it up to the group for questions. I would ask that you use the reactions button to raise your hand, and I see you, Cosie. So I just want to let people think and then use their raise hand to come to the front of the queue. Yeah, Cosie.
we never mentioned the affidavits for healing or
Oh,
mediumship.
please, yeah.
And during the announcements, the chairperson should always mention those and have them available in your churches for your students, because that's how your students that will assist them in going forward for their credentialing. And I forget the other thing I was going to say. Never mind.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up. And I know churches are, oops, we just lost Sharon. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Just if you could press the reaction button and click raise hand if you do. I know a couple of people put some questions in the chat that we did get to in the discussion. Any other thoughts or comments? Anything that you'd like to share about, yeah, Sharon is having connection issues. Okay.
Oh, good. See, nobody
Okay.
has any questions. That's great.
Okay. So Diane has a question. So Diane, would you like to unmute and we will.
Thank you. Actually, it was more a comment. The other thing that I always like to make sure is available are applications for membership.
Mhm.
So in addition to having the affidavits available, I like to make sure that they know that information is available as well.
That's wonderful.
Thank
That's
you for that. That is wonderful.
Yeah. Sharon, did you want
I-
to? Oops. Okay, so when Sharon comes back, we'll unfreezes. We will ask her to finish that. Oh, Pam, you've got your hand up. Yeah.
I would make sure that people know that if you have
Okay, you're kind of freezing, Sharon. I don't know if you can. Oh, there you are. Okay, would you
Okay.
like to?
I know, I'm like, I don't know, it's not raining or anything. I wanted everybody to know that if you have students who are in your church who are working as towards their certification in healing or mediumship, please make sure that you make an announcement or have them available, because the students are not allowed or not supposed to, I can't say not allowed, but they're not supposed to ask for affidavit.
Okay, so we'll find Sharon again. And then Pam, you had a question?
Yeah, it's just some things that have come up since we've returned in person after, the over 2 years to our church. We've been on Zoom for 2 years, and then in May we returned in person, and now we're doing hybrid. And the board voted to have this this owl. It's a speaker and a camera, so it kind of shows the live congregation, and we're working on integrating that the Zoom people can come in and speak as well. Anyway, it's been a lot of learning. I feel like we haven't hit our stride yet. So every week is an experiment with spirit and the people on Zoom and the people in person. And I just feel like it's a lesson in trust. And it's one of the interesting things, though, is that we have like 16 people on Zoom and 16 people in church. So we're half and half, and we have been consistently half and half since we've gone back to church. There's a lot of people who are still very uncomfortable about coming in person. But one of the things that has happened is we've had new people coming in. Someone new comes every week that just heard about spiritualism. So that's been part of the journey. But I feel like we're kind of all in this together at the church, with the board, with myself, with the congregants, with those on Zoom, and everybody's really at a learning point here, it feels like. So we have adjusted. We used to do the healing service integrated into our regular service, and now we're doing it before, with a little break before we begin the regular service. But I just wanted to maybe put it out there if any of you are in churches and like what your experiences are, and if you find that you're kind of navigating through the order of service in new ways continuously. Just some thoughts and
Yeah, thank you, Pam.
suggestions. Thanks. Thank you for this. This is great.
Lorraine?
Hi. First, I want to thank Sharon and Cosie. You did an amazing job tonight. Thank you very much for your time and your information. But since our church has opened, we've had a policy. Any MPI students that are traveling with permission from your pastor or your board, we will put you up and help you to get the affidavits if you need some. If you need healing, if you need mediumship, if you need to chair a service, contact me or my co-pastor, Jerry Gainey, who she's on here, and her husband is president. Contact our church and we will help you. Because we believe that all churches should work together. We're all in this together. So if you need help, we're here for you as well. And we are more than happy to help you get your affidavit. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. That's a wonderful offer. Siobhan?
Hi.
Hi.
So the question, just some clarification about the order of service. Like, I understand the order of service, obviously. Well, maybe not obviously, but I understand the order of service and everything. However, if a church is in a location where their congregation prefers or is more comfortable with a slight deviation from the way things are done, and they've got a steady flow of people coming in, the church is growing, there's a mix of ages and gender, and there isn't that feeling of complaint, are we asking them to, even though because if it's about everyone, it's because I heard that part, it's about everyone, if the congregation is okay with that, if everyone in that like, I've come back every Sunday because this is what feels like home, as we talk about. The way you guys do things makes me feel inclusive, but it slightly deviates from the traditional order of service. Are we saying, well, even though your congregation is okay with that, even though your church is growing, you need to go back to the more of the different way of, to more of the platform thing, or is there flexibility? I think that's the question I have. Is our protocols, or are they flexible?
I mean, I would start us off with the thought that it depends on which aspects that you're talking about. Like, we've raised the issue about where the healing goes, but Cosie, and Sharon had just sent a message. She's not sure if her mic is working, but Cosie, do you want to lead off on that?
Yeah, I would depend on, like you said, what are they more comfortable with? And I guess I'm not sure if you, in the church up here, the chairperson doesn't do the announcements and the love offering announcement between the sermon and the spirit greetings. They do that after the sermon, and then we go right into a song, spirit greetings, and then we close with so I'm not sure I understand, Siobhan.
For more clarity, I understand that the stepping off the platform is a big thing, because I hear that. I hear the reasoning behind it. However, if you have a congregation that feels like you being on the platform, talking down to them makes them feel uncomfortable, and they prefer if you're standing face to, not in their personal space. I'm not talking about walking up into a person's face and going, here's your message. I'm talking if they're standing in front of the platform downward, in front of everyone, and they're giving messages. I think I just need a little bit more clarity of where do we draw the line up, even though you might be more comfortable feeling like I'm on your level versus being up on the platform. Our protocol is we be on the platform no matter what. And that's just one of the things. There could be other things that change, like people using modern songs instead of the hymns because their congregation doesn't want the hymns, kind of thing. So those are the thoughts. Those are just thoughts I'm just throwing out there.
Personally, I like to, there's several reasons why I don't care for the spiritualist hymnal, but I won't go into that. Anyway, yes, in my understanding, with the protocol that's with the platform decorum book that has been accepted by the organization, it does have mediumship from the platform, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Yes,
And when you're off the platform, so yes, I would say that if the newer people that are coming to church are more comfortable with being off the platform, my question is, did they ever experience the work when it was done on the from the platform? And those would be my questions. And also for the students and or the people, the vibration and holding that vibration. No, I can't do that. So that's what I would say about that. Sharon?
Sharon's still having trouble with her mic, but I'd just like to add to that from discussions from that we've had with students. I think I would say to go to that sometimes what I've seen is that those doing the planning haven't looked at their own comfort level or their own understanding about working with energy, right? And sometimes it's an assumption, I think, what people are comfortable with. And usually the comfort goes back to education. You know, or if we've done it one way and now we want to try it the way the protocols are, could we shift it slightly or have discussion about it, try it out and get back into that. So I think it's something that goes back to education. And I don't know, Sharon, you said you were going to put something in the chat. Is there anything that you want to add to that? Or if not. Okay, I did have a question while Sharon is typing something that when will the recordings be available? We're going to do a little editing on it in terms of presentation, and then we'll likely release them after the last session, which is September 15th with Richard Scholler. So we'll ask the national office to help us make an announcement. Okay. And then Sharon just put in the chat to me, just respectful to her opinion, just respectful to address spirit from the platform, respect to spirit and others present. And I believe that's also addressed in the protocols book. So I know we're a little over time. I know that we probably have other questions, and hopefully there'll be other opportunities for discussion. I'd like to thank Sharon and Cosie for serving this discussion, and for all of you who have come and participated. And we look forward to seeing you on September 15th when the Ministerial Association will be presenting its third session. Oh, and Jackie Randall just put in the chat to make the comment that non-workers should not give messages after the service. And Sharon is asking me to remind people that the NST weekend starting tomorrow and through the weekend, and that announcement has gone out. I don't know if Sharon's having trouble with the mic. I don't know if Patricia's still on. Do you want to make an announcement, or someone else from the NST club? Oh, okay, go ahead, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. We have made Facebook events for the Message Circle, mediumship. We have natural law. Mediumship is with the Reverend Elaine Hager, and natural law was Reverend Marilyn Audrey. And then attuning to spirit is Reverend Pamela Bollinger. So there's still room for additional people. It's out there on Facebook. If anybody needs help, they don't do Facebook, please contact me. I'm in the directory and I will be more than happy to send you links so you can register.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Pat, for doing that. And again, thank you, everybody. And I hope you have a great rest of your night. Thank you again, Sharon and Cosie.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,